I'll now call this meeting to order. Thank you for joining us for the committee of the whole meeting. We would normally have our clerk call the roll. We'll have our deputy clerk call the roll in this case.
Supervisor Eisenberg,
Here.
trustee Rubin here, trustee Mulder,
Here.
trustee Cassell McNally here.
Well, the record reflect that trustee Elliott Robbins is out, and we knew that. All right, so I get to welcome you all. I'm Gail Eisenberg. I'm the supervisor of New Trier Township. Thank you all for coming today for our special committee of the whole on youth services. We really just wanted to get a sense of what is available in our township. New Trier Township has been funding youth services for as long as we can remember, Brian. Brian's our instructional knowledge. And we have, recognized that other entities in the area are also providing youth services. We wanted to get a concept of what is out there and what the landscape is for the various governmental entities. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here.
Our screen is a little tricky to see.
So where I here? Slideshow. You should be able to see. Yeah. Okay, so our basic agenda, a lot of this is going to be free flowing in the discussion of youth services portion. But we just wanted to set, first of all, talk a little bit about who New Trier Township is and what those agencies are that we currently fund. So our mission is to provide leadership, advocacy, and resources for the physical, mental, and social well-being of our township residents. We do that by following our guiding principles, identifying and addressing the needs of our community to create energetic ideas and maintaining existing programs that are relevant and effective. We want to support and give due diligence to fiscal accountability and programs, providing services to our neighbors, including youth services, youth programs, senior citizen support, aid to persons with disabilities, and emergency food shelter for those in need. And we provide assistance directly to individuals and through our third-party sources. Some townships, if you're from a different area or are familiar with township government, provide services to those kinds of communities directly. So you might have a township senior center or a township youth center. New Trier Township has always done it, or for the memory of that we have, has done this through partnerships with nonprofit organizations. So we do not have our own internal youth services that some townships would have. And we do that same thing for our mental health services and for our developmental disabilities, etc. So what already exists in the township? And I will let Julie come on up because she is the master of the survey and kind of go through the survey results. We do appreciate that those of you who came and who did participate, certainly not a statistical study, but gives us a little bit of a heads up on what we're dealing with.
So the predominant area was school and extracurriculars. Drop-in centers fell right behind, and then counseling services was behind that. Of course, we have all of the other services listed here. So school and extracurricular is important. Hours of youth programs was something we wanted to explore, and in that you'll see that the 3 to 6 p.m. time slot was the most popular in this area, and then over holiday and breaks was also very popular, and then just running behind weekends. Really nice look at the distribution of the different villages in the township here. Speaks for itself. And then this is the township programs that we have, and it was really heartening to see the numbers were pretty high for people realizing the different programs. And I'll just Brian, did you want to briefly go through what they are? We have peer jury.
The Township Peer Jury Program is a juvenile diversion program. We work with 5 local police departments in diverting juvenile offenders from the juvenile court system. Those kids appear in front of a jury of their peers. They have to have pled guilty. They have to appear with a parent. And the kids will ask them and their parents a lot of tough questions. The jury then deliberates upon a sentence, and we assign these kids to do community service. Many of these kids do community service at local agencies here in the community. The drop-in youth centers, youth services with Glenview Northbrook, the libraries, the park districts, and some other organizations here in the community are partners with Kids Through Community Service. Youth services with Glenview Northbrook is offers a variety of counseling type services, working with troubled youth, working with families, troubled youth and families. The Early Childhood Alliance is a program for parents, educators, and children, offer a variety of services. There are 4 youth drop-in centers here in Newport Township, the Winnetka Youth Organization, Glencoe Junior High Project, Glencoe Youth Services, and the Warming House Youth Center. Glencoe Junior High Project serves only junior high kids from Glencoe. The 3 high school drop-in centers, the Winnetka Youth Organization, Glencoe Youth Services, and the Warming House serve all of Newport Township. Any kid in the township can go to any of those agencies. It's a mix of junior high and high school kids. Our Special Gifts Theater is a theater program for young adult, for adolescents that have developmental and other disabilities. The Children's Advocacy Center is a organization that works with sexually abused children and their families in the event of a court prosecution. Haven is probably the largest youth serving agency in this community. They provide counseling services, assistance to families with kids who are experiencing some of the trials and tribulations of adolescence. And then finally, York's Lighthouse does awareness of depression, suicide prevention, and it's really broadening itself out into all kinds of mental health services. There's a lot of resources available here in the community. Our concern as a township is, are we meeting all the needs in the community? Are these agencies working well together? And what's the current landscape look like in the age of COVID?
Oh, go back to relevant, guys. This is also for Brian. So we're putting a lot of emphasis on Brian because he has been working with our agency specifically since 98. When did you start?
97.
97. But this is his final year doing the agency allocation process, and we thank him for his service. So the funding guidelines, I worked with the committee chairs to work on these funding guidelines and then presented them to the board, which were adopted by the board as an attempt to try to ensure that each of our committees was applying the same type of standards to our funding process, so that it wouldn't depend on, a particular agency being assigned to one of the 3 committees. We do work with, we have volunteer community members who review applications to be our agency partners and to provide these services, including youth services. So Brian, if you wouldn't mind going over the relevant guidelines to our discussions. You don't need to read them out, just the relevant ones.
There's both financial guidelines and other certification issues, and you have to be a 501c3 nonprofit in the community to apply for township funding. You have to be an organization that has the appropriate nonprofit infrastructure in place. And you can't be an organization that has its own taxing authority. For example, we can't fund programs operated by schools, by park districts, by libraries. They all have their own taxing authority. There are some other criteria we look at. What's your reserve levels? Are you serving all of Newport Township and not just one community in the township? Because tax dollars come from all of the community. You have to be serving all of the community. And then we just look at, does an agency have all of the infrastructure in place? A board of directors act as an agency governance. Auditor AG 990. Agency maintains liability insurance coverage, and then a whole host of other things. Staff. We don't fund strictly volunteer organizations. We have to have at least one full-time staff person, or its equivalent, whether it is funded by the township. And obviously you have to file the appropriate reports with the Attorney General and the Secretary of State. These are all listed in our township guidelines. Our proposals are due in the fall each year. And most of the agencies that get funded by the township, we have a long-standing partnership with a few agencies. Make it cut out each year. We may add a few agencies each year, but we are funding agencies that serve the community. We want our agencies to be successful, or because they're serving our residents. This is not a process like a foundation or something where 1 in 10 grant applications are funded. If you're serving our residents, if you're generating significant costs in doing so, and you are a well-managed agency meeting in the community, you're likely going to fund.
So I think that the most relevant for our purposes, our discussion was that we have now codified that serving the entire community is one of the major funding guidelines for New Trier Township, as well as we look at the number of people in New Trier Township you're serving as well. So those are two main concerns as well. And it has to be a social service. It cannot be purely recreational for New Trier funding as well. So this is the interactive part. So now that you've listened to our little lecture, and I hope we went pretty quick on that. If we could just go around and say who you are, what your role is in your organization. Hopefully Mr. Owl will turn around to you. And if you can just speak loudly, we are recording so we can do proper minutes, and anyone who wants to hear can. We'll start with our agency partners. Why don't we start with Winnetka Youth? Yep.
I'm Sophia Hassan. I'm the executive director for Winnetka Youth Organization. And I would say something popular that definitely got brought back this year through partnerships with Warming House and Winnetka Youth Services, where the Battle of the Bands, a lot of the concerts brought a lot of the attendance that I think all three organizations have had in the past. So I think that was nice that we were able to bring that back in spite of COVID levels still rising. Something else that we're looking forward to, we're going to be launching a mentorship program. So looking forward to doing that as well in partnership with our board president. Something he's really passionate about.
I'm Michelle Rosenthal. I'm the executive director of Clinical Youth Services. I'll second what Sophia said, and Emily as well. We work collaboratively to produce the Battle of the Bands. So we just did that on Glencoe, working in unison. It was fantastic, actually. We had 5 high school bands or acts participate. It was great. We had over 100 people attend. We're going to be running it again in January. Our plan is to really rotate it around the township, so that in January it's over here in Winnetka, and then in April it's over in Wilmette. And we've also been working about some ideas about other collaborations coming up, and we've actually been meeting probably every 2 weeks just to sort of touch base with each other and see where we can help each other. Just recently, the Warming House had their Halloween party, and we were all there representing and working on that collaboratively. Also, we've been trying to do a lot of volunteer outreach with our community on Glencoe services. So we are out supporting the Park District at Food Back. We'll be out supporting the village over for their Festival of Lights. And just a lot of fun things going on. We're working with the doing a sort of day of service on Sunday, actually open to everyone in the township for creating bags for veterans. That's from candy that was donated to given back by Catholic Families in District 35. So we're currently collecting it from the school, and that will be repurposed for the veterans bags. And then we're also going to be making sandwiches for connections with the homeless, and that's open to everyone in the township.
And all 3 of us together too, we're going to be having the kids bake cookies that'll go into the veterans bag. So I have someone coming in to do a cooking demonstration for them with the cookies. And then also we're trying to get a club. We're following Erica's White House's lead.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to get a club at the high school.
Over at the high school. That's our big plan. It's sort of that way we can sort of get the direct voice of what the kids, what is driven by the kids, and see, what they want, and where the outreach partner for them then to help facilitate the connection with the community.
I'm Mead Means, and I'm the development manager at Erica's Lighthouse. And we are a mental health education program that's used in school communities. Our classroom programs are used in schools throughout Township, and then we also have some empowerment clubs. And then this year, we're launching an expanded family engagement program, which includes on-demand workshops that families can use. And an expanded family handbook that really helps guide, like, what is mental health? How can you support a student in the mental health if they're having a mental health issue? And just really helping families and educators and students all have the same vocabulary and the same knowledge so that everybody can help support students in their mental health.
Hi, I'm Elise Larson. I'm with Special Gifts Theater. I'm the executive director. And we're an educational and therapeutic theater program for youth with intellectual and developmental disabilities in the township. We partner with Scobie School in Winnetka. We also just started partnering with Loyola Academy in Wilmette in their brand new theater space. We also have a peer mentoring component. So students with disabilities are partnered with a neurotypical peer, and they work together on developing social skills, speech language skills, self-confidence, using theater as a platform. This year, our musical theater program is doing musicals. So it's an exciting day when everyone found out the parts they were going to play in musicals, and we're working on rehearsals. And so those performances will be the first and second weekends in March. And we'd love to, we always invite the community, and we'd love to partner with organizations do the performances. Great.
Hi, everyone. Carly Andrews. I'm the executive director of the Alliance for Early Childhood. So we are focused as our mission on supporting the healthy, well-rounded development of children, really thinking about that from birth to age 8. We offer programs for parents. We have a virtual series that brings experts on various topics around parenting, child development to families. We have, we serve families of themselves and have a series of events that are free, open to the public, for children and families to come and play away from screens. We sport building like we did in October, things like that. And then we have an educator series, and that'll be the program I could highlight. We, this Thursday, have been doing this for 32 years. We've got our annual networking dinner. We're bringing a speech and language pathologist from Boston Children's Hospital, who also teaches at Harvard, who's going to be talking about 150 of our educators in New Township around talk and the art of conversation, the way it builds so many aspects of children's healthy, well, and great development, cognitively, socially, emotionally, and the like. So happy to be here tonight.
Hi, I'm Joanne Pavlis. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Special Education and Student Services at Future High School. So just wanted to say hello, and I'm glad to hear about these services. This is like my second year in this role as student services, at least at Nature. I've done it in my previous roles before, but it's always nice to just get a sense of what's out in the community in addition to hearing from my staff. So one thing I would like to highlight that we're partaking in at Nature is this year especially, all of our sophomores will be trained in mental health first aid. So that's really exciting. And then we're also building capacity within our teachers as well. And so we're partnering with Johnson right now as they're training our students, and then we'll be going through a trainer of trainers with them in the second semester so that we can continue that and build capacity for future. But moving forward, that's the plan there. And then last school year, we had put in place a student support center, which essentially is like a drop-in center at our high school. And so that's something that we're continually building, but the idea behind it again is another option for our students to access support pretty much anytime throughout the day, rather than seeking it individually through a social worker or another, ways. So it's going well, and it's being used, and it's continually, being accessed. So those are just two highlights from my end.
Who staffs that center?
So it's typically a certified social worker or one of our psychologists. Oftentimes we'll also partner with one of our interns, but ordinarily it'll be a social worker or psychologist.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Amy O'Leary. I'm the Executive Director of Youth Services in Glenview. What can I say? We offer a variety of early intervention, and crisis response services to children, teens, and young adults across the northern suburbs of Chicago. So we're youth services of Glenview, Norfolk, but we have no geographic boundary. We pride ourselves on never turning anybody away based on ability to pay. So we have a sliding scale that goes as low as $1, and we really love to use activities to connect with kids therapeutically. And our facility is especially conducive to that. We like to use play therapy, art therapy, music therapy, etc. I guess a program to highlight is our Pride program, which was formerly under the Angles umbrella. But we acquired them in 2017 when their clinic closed. And that continues to be one of our fastest growing programs. Annually, we serve about 250 kids across the northern suburbs in Pride, and that program is completely free of charge.
Hi, I'm Kyle Berg. I'm the superintendent of recreation for the Wenatchee Park District. As you probably guessed, our work is largely recreationally based, leisure activities, access to amenities in the community. We have an enormous outturning or participation rate in our sport oriented programming. Our largest limiting factor is indoor space, and so that's one area that we probably offer the least. But we're always working with different organizations, third parties, and other nonprofit organizations to expand what we can offer to the community. Our offerings are completely open to any and all residents, community members of the North Shore community and beyond. We are always looking to try something new. We've got a number of events coming up for the holiday season. Our winter brochure is scheduled to be released on November 9th. We're coming off in a wonderful Halloween season with Pumpkins in the Woods event that was held at Wood Park. We had somewhere around 500 participants for that event. Came off our Fall Fest event where we were in the neighborhood of 3,000 to 4,000 people coming through that event. And we're excited for the winter events that are coming up shortly.
I'm Mary Lawler. I'm from the League of Women Voters of Wilmette, and I do not provide any youth services. I guess we do. We do have a young team. We actually do have a young program. We have served local government board meetings, and that's what I'm doing here.
Thank you as always.
Hi, I'm Andrea Von Johnson. I'm manager of youth services at the Wilmette Public Library. And we want to do that too. Hi, I'm Krista Hubley. I'm the teen librarian at the Wilmette Public Library. And we, besides our collection of materials and media, we offer dozens of free programs each month for ages ranging from birth to grade 12. Everything from an infant story time to Lego Club to Dungeons and Dragons. We can each tell you about some highlights. I'm particularly excited about the maker programming that we've been developing over the past few years. We're getting more 3D printers this month. And so children and teens and adults, for that matter, can design and 3D print and have it and stuff. And we also have other tools that if you're not familiar with the maker movement, it's the DIY movement where it's more instead of coming to us and saying, I'll do the project that you'd like us to do, they bring the project to us and they say, I want to make this and how can I make this? And we have tools for children. I could tell you about their wonderful maker space. We have other tools in our maker menu, like a vinyl cutter and paper press and metal stamp jewelry. And we'd love to see more teams coming in to use those materials. And in the future, in the next year, we're introducing a series of like social justice programming for families, adults, that we're calling Let's Learn Together. And the first series is going to be teaching parents and children about race and how to raise anti-racist children. It will be a series of monthly story times with activities. There will be kits that families can check out to explore different books and activities together. And there'll be book discussions for adults as well. You want to highlight something?
Yeah, so for my most popular program is
mostly recreational, but it does have a lot of, social skills built in, and that's Dungeons and Dragons. It's been going strong the entire 5 years I've been there. Even during the pandemic, we moved virtually, it went strong there, and now we moved back to in person. I always get a very dedicated group, where you get very into their characters and the world building. And, that's honestly my most fun program. One of the things that I'm working on for next year with our new, school librarian, Etty.
Oh, yeah, that's really.
We're working on sort of a crafting with a cause, program series. It's going to start in January with, making rescue bears with the Institute of Positive Mental Health. And we're marketing or gearing this towards tweens and teens and trying to get both of those age groups together. To do like crafts that have a purpose that then we can donate, partner with different organizations. So if any of you ever think of any good, crafts that we can do as a group, let me know. But we're starting with that, and then I think we're gonna do, oh, I forgot what we're gonna do.
And we should add that, our programs are not limited to a Met card holder. Almost every program that we offer is open to anyone.
And I'm Bridget Lewis, I'm a Winnetka resident, and I'm on the Life Stages Committee, so I'm a committee member. And thank you for everything that everybody here does. It's so interesting for me to learn about it. I'm new to the committee this year, so. And I let my babysitter go in a few minutes, so.
We're recording.
Hi, everyone. So here is our little pod over here. My name is Anna Karwaska. I'm the new youth services manager over at Winnetka. So my goal is to like get to know what is here in the community and get to know new folks. So please reach out. Always happy to think of new ways to collaborate. And if you guys want to introduce yourself before I start rambling. Yeah, I'm Maddie Belk. I'm a youth services librarian at Winnetka. And I do a ton of programming, mostly for like the older age groups. I do story time for the littles as well. I think the most popular thing right now for me to talk about, I guess, is we just had our Artstober celebration where we just did a ton of art programming for a bunch of different age groups. We had a bunch of teens come and a bunch of like little kids do finger painting and stuff. And we had our tiny canvas art show where we put out all these tiny canvases that people from the community did on a big display. And people really enjoyed coming to see that, which was great. I also run a manga book club at the middle school down the street. And I'm hopefully trying to reach out to some of the high school people and stuff to do more like lunchtime book clubs or after school things. Me and the middle school librarian right now, we're talking about doing a after school on Fridays once a month. Sort of like general like nerd interests club, where it'd be Dungeons and Dragons and manga and anime and like all of that fun stuff. And so hopefully we'll get that up and going starting in January is what we're looking at.
And I'm the third person from Winnetka Public Library. Monica, I'm the director. Thanks for having us. One thing, well, story time is obviously our bread and butter. We do 5 story times minimum per week. But we have branched out into some various different language story times. So in the winter series, we're offering Mandarin, Spanish, and Hebrew. So I'm kind of excited about that. That's been the result of community requests. Also, we're doing a Lunar New Year event that is being planned and provided by our Mandarin storytime teacher. So we're looking forward to that. Our brochure is going to be coming out the week before Thanksgiving. So if you're a resident, look for that. And we're starting a new sensory program. Our grade school librarian, Jane, who came to us previously from Gray's Lake, had a lot of experience with that. So we're doing some targeted things to help families with special needs also be able to enjoy the library with some play and some stories and some movies. So excited that that's coming up and again, happy to meet anyone who wants to talk about potential partnership opportunities with library.
My name is Paul Lively. I was on the agency oversight committee for several years. I guess it's quite called Life Savings now. Yeah, and I'm here because I wanted to hear what the community had to say about the value of the youth center. So I was hoping to hear community comments.
And we do have, hold on for one second.
I'm Emily Schnall. I'm the executive director of the Warren House Center, and we're a drop-in center for 6 to 12 graders, and offer structured programming as well as mental health services for teens. And similar to what Sophia and Michelle were saying, we did a lot of collaborating over the past month and a half, and then we did our Halloween program this past week, so I kind of ditto what they were saying. And then something else I feel like has really had a lot of traction in our agency, especially right now is our youth leadership board. So I'm kind of like the student government of our center to help with decision making, program planning, all of those kinds of things. So I would say that that's one of our highlights right now.
And I'll ask you to unmute. Does that work? Yes.
Can everybody hear me?
Go ahead.
Can you? Okay. Hi, I am Ann Finstad. I am the Children's Services and Public Operations Manager over at the Glencoe Public Library. Like the other public libraries in the area, we offer a variety of free enrichment and educational classes in addition to everything that we offer through our collections. We have a lot of cross-age, multi-generational programs coming up. So we do have, just like Winnetka just had their tiny art show, we have that we're going to be doing in December. We have a puzzle and game swap that we're doing in December as well. And we're going to be using volunteers from GJHP and GYS to help run that. We start at birth in the children's department, but we do provide programming up through the teen years. And yeah, I guess I'm trying to think if there's additional highlights that we're really excited about. One of the things that we just did, and I have to give Amanda, who just left Winnetka, a lot of credit for this, we did just do a Teen Spaces survey, and we got some feedback about what teens want to see in their public library spaces. So that was really interesting to be able to look at that. And you know, we feel like we just see a large number of people walking through our doors, but we have also started to do a lot of different outreach. And we had a lot of book bike outreach over the summer in different parks and tried to do that outreach on Sunday mornings and other times when the library was closed, so that people who might not normally visit the library could learn more about our services.
Did we miss anyone else? Okay. So thank you all for your introductions. At this point, we're just going to have a kind of an open discussion. I'll get us started for our public library. And I appreciate that we have representatives from Winnetka, Wilmette, and Glencoe. So thank you guys. Do you consider yourself to be a spot where junior high and high school kids can drop in and feel like they have a place to go after school?
Certainly. I mean, we provide spaces. We have a dedicated team center that Krista manages. I'm going to talk a little about the activities that are available there. Sure. Yeah, so we do have a dedicated team room. It's on the floor with adult services. I'm actually technically in the adult services department, but I kind of float in between, you know, both, like a lot of teen librarians. And so in that team center, we're right now working on getting some more some new furniture for that space, since it's sort of lacking. I'm also working on getting a dedicated gaming system that's set up all the time, because I get a lot of questions to use our Nintendo Switch, but right now it can only be set up when I'm in there, and that's when I'm available. So that's not always that often with desk and so on. So yeah, we have a lot of drop-in space. The teams especially don't really confine themselves to that room. We find them studying pretty much in all areas of the library, and they are studying quite a lot while hanging out. And then, yeah, we also have a junior high area on the second floor that
Jennifer, one of the youth librarians, is working on, doing some drop-in programming in the evenings. Is it evenings or after school? It's the evenings, yeah. And, I have a board game collection that they can, drop in and use, so we, you know, it is definitely a welcoming space for them to just come and hang out.
How heavily is it used?
I would say the library is used fairly heavily by the high school students. The teen room itself, not really. It's a very small space, and right now I don't have good furniture in there. I only have like 3 chairs, because some were broken by teens jumping on them. So I'm hoping to get better space in there for them to use. We're working on, getting in some more giant whiteboards, some furniture that they can actually sit and study at, and trying to make it a hybrid space. It can be hard to have a hybrid space that's for studying and also for recreation. And it's small, so if 1 or 2 kids goes in there, no one else does. Unless I'm doing a program. So that is a challenge that I'm still working on.
What would you say capacity is?
That's a good question. 15? I don't know. 15 and 20? Yeah. She's getting a new whiteboard in there for them to doodle on, right? Yes, I had a giant chalkboard. It was terrible to maintain. So now it's going to be a giant whiteboard one day, when it's ordered. We find that the Queens and teams and Wilmette Kennel are very, well booked, and overscheduled, I think, perhaps. And so, it's a challenge to get them to come in and just hang out, and they seem to have a lot of free time. Yeah, they also heavily use the 4 meeting rooms we have. We have study rooms they can use for up to 2 hours a day. They use those a lot. They definitely come in to study. They come in to meet their tutors. They come in to get items for assignments or recreational reading. And during finals time, they take over the entire building.
We wouldn't know anything about that.
Do you ever have to turn teams away from the studying because you have more that want the space then, or does it work out?
We open up our auditorium, which serves, 100 people, which has a large capacity. Kids brings in pizza. Yes, I'm bringing back Teen Pizza Study Night, which used to have a ton of kids that came. Obviously, since the pandemic, it has not gone on, but I'm trying to promote it. It is a drop-in. It's one night during finals. I have one for Loyola and one for New Trier, but I don't police it, so like any kid, any teen-ish person can come in and get pizza. And I try to have like various library things and board games for that as well. The only thing they get turned away from mostly is the study rooms, because they can only use it for 2 hours, and they do get hooked up pretty quickly. We just find more places for them to go. They'll sit on the floor.
Glencoe.
So yeah, we tend to see the largest traffic with the junior high kids after school. We have 4 youth computers, and those are really heavily used between the hours of about 4 and 5:15. And then in our junior high area, we have a couple of other lounge seats. So we may have anywhere between 8 to 10 kids in that area. And then spread through the rest of the library are people who are meeting with their tutors or working in our group study area or something like that. We do not have a lot of meeting rooms, and we know that that's a need specifically during those after school peak hours, because that will get booked up immediately, either by a group of kids or a one-on-one or something like that. We, do struggle sometimes with kind of managing the way that the groups behave when they come in. And that's more because we don't have a space for them. So we don't have like a dedicated teen area. Like I said, we have that kind of computer area, and it accommodates a small number of people. But yeah, so it's interesting. Just like the other libraries, we get a lot of teens during finals. They just fill the area. They use our Wi-Fi, and people do come in to study, kind of as needed. They use our ebook collection with our YA materials, I'd say pretty consistently. We don't definitely know that it's teens using it, but our ebook collection and our print book collection for YA materials, about 40% of the checkouts for fiction come through the ebook collection. So that's a really interesting thing, just to see how teens are using the e-collection versus the actual materials in the library.
Would you consider yourself to be a drop-in space? Like,
Oh,
if I were to show up as a kid, there's stuff to do on a given afternoon?
We don't have as many activities. We were trying to offer some drop-in activities on like about once a month. We also have scheduled activities, but because of kind of how, I don't know, I'd say like sporadic it is, we might offer an activity and have nobody show up or nobody in the right age range show up. I think that it's not consistent enough for them. So it's not like, well, every Wednesday we've got this activity. And then of course we have places like GYS who have a rich a set of activities that they offer. And like Winnetka Library, we're also really just cramped on space. So to find that space to offer that activity when we're not also offering, you know, a book buddies program or a read to the dogs program or some sort of, you know, other after school club, like there's no one place where teens and tweens know that they can come to. But in many ways, I think we are a drop-in center. It's just more of a self-led, like, you know that the library is going to be open, and then you can come there.
Do you communicate with Glencoe Youth Services about each other's programs or activities and try not to duplicate?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in terms of like duplication, yeah, I mean, we're always observing like what the park district is doing, what our other organizations are doing. Michelle and I are always communicating. She's great at sending flyers. We work with GJHP. We do the Book Buddies program in partnership with them. So we're very aware of what is happening within the community to make sure that, yeah, we're not overlapping in ways that would mean that we're not drawing people or the other group isn't drawing people.
I guess I would ask the same question for the Winnetka Youth Organization, the Winnetka Library, and the Warming House and the Wilmette Library. You guys communicate regularly about activities and so on going on at your various places, so you don't duplicate services?
When Amanda was at the library, her and I communicated pretty regularly. I think I went to my to check in with me, and I would send stuff to her. She sent stuff to me. I know you were developing the team space at the Winnetka Library. So her and I communicated about that. We also communicated about a joint art venture. I think it didn't take off like the one for the window, but I knew that was something. And then the maker space, I went there and I toured it. They always invite us to come in during the finals week because we bring like refreshments for the kids. And then we're also kind of like an extension, so we get like overflow. I don't think that we had that problem last year, but we had like a table up front when they got rained out. But it rained. It rained last year during the thing, but they provided a table up front for us. And I brought over like someone from the YWCA to do like I guess like a study break with the kids. We've done yoga in the past. We didn't have the yoga last year, but we've also provided yoga as a study break as well. And one of the reasons we didn't do that last year was because it rained the day that we were scheduled to be there. So all the kids came, I think, that day, and so all the rooms were full.
So for
We'll exchange information before we get here, but yeah, when Amanda was there, we did communicate regularly. She always updated me on what was happening at the library and vice versa.
So could Winnetka tell us a little bit about that team space?
We don't have a scene
Oh.
space. Well, after, we did start booking the room. Yeah, we did start booking the room that's attached to the studio downstairs, and we put a whiteboard and a series of like a bunch of board games, and things to do, video game console and stuff down there. And we had it staffed for a little while and it was absolutely not used. And when we took somebody out of there, it was swarmed. And so there's a bunch of kids who use that room after school now. And they go down there. And we also have, I think it's like 5, maybe 6 designated team laptops that are basically clones of the studio laptops that I put together with our tech department. That I have all of the same stuff that the studio computers have, but also games. And so those are also available, that the kids can just come in and like grab them and use them anywhere in the building. The teens will often use our study rooms, but we only have 3. And so once they fill up immediately, They kind of bounce around in between sitting in the stacks and up on the mezzanine. They really like to hang out up there. And so they kind of float all over the place. The only place they don't seem to come to sit and hang out is in the youth department, because it's much more geared towards a little, yeah, if you've got like squishy dinosaur toys and, you know, all kinds of things like that, but they're just like, no, that's not for us.
Yeah, and I will say, like, last year during the fall, you guys hosted the Sunrise movement, like the youth-led environmental group. And they also met at the Winnetka Youth Organization too. They kind of bounced back and forth during the last school year. So that was something that I thought was a really good partnership as well. I found out about them through Amanda, and I came in for one of their meetings, and so they came to our center and at the library. So we also host like those youth-led groups as well.
So the question around collaboration, I do want to say that the Wilmette, Winnetka Glencoe librarians do an amazing program for the Alliance for Early Childhood. It's one of our most popular programs at the start of the year, with all of the new books that teachers come and hear about that are new in the collection. So it's a big thank you to all for that. Great.
So we actually, Anne mentioned earlier the study or the survey that we did with the help of New Trier. So I'll be passing that along to Anna and connecting Anna, me, and this is Anna's third week, literally. She hasn't met many people yet. But one of the things that we were trying to get at is if we were to do something different, would the teens come? If we were to provide a teen-only space, would we come? Part of that was because we did talk to Wilmette. And Wilmette said, yeah, we get a little bit of use out of our teen room, but mostly when we do a program. And so, you know, before we look at investing dollars in renovating or adding things or anything like that, we wanted to see, is there a desire for that? Would teens actually come? And do you want to speak to any of the survey results?
Gosh, you know what? I don't have them pulled up in front of me. If you give me a minute, I can get those, okay?
Sure. Yeah, I think the basic gist of it was teens said they would come if we had a dedicated space for them and that they would use it to study, which we were really surprised by. But the teens in our community are, you know, they like to study, and when you see them, they might have a piece of pizza in their hand back in the stacks, but they also have a notebook and a textbook out, and they're doing studying like things and so I was really surprised. I was like, I would think they would just be chatting on their phones and texting, but no, they're actually studying, and they said, we'd like a quiet space where we could go and meet up with our friends and work on projects for school and or study for things. And so we do, last year we called it finals feeding frenzy. And so, you know, we had snacks and we stayed open later, just like you guys did, and, you know, have the teens come in and use the library for that. So we're planning to do that again in December for the finals coming up.
So Monica, is it less about, were you finding that it was less about having teen specific programming and more, we want a place to be than to just do our thing? And it sounds like, you know, a few of you have said, you know, without, you know, some grown up staring at us the whole time.
Right.
And, you know, just to kind of exist and not have to pay for anything. Like,
yeah, that's what it seemed like. They're definitely, like, Maddie's D&D program is popular, and we do run some specific teen programming, and we do get decent attendance for that. It's repeat patrons over and over again, right? And it's hard to attract new. And again, I think in the survey, one of the comments I read a few times was, I'm in a ton of stuff and I don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
So our teams are very, very busy right now.
Yeah, and so I have that data pulled up in front of me. I just didn't want to misquote it. So over 95%, we had 241 responses, which was huge. Anytime that I've been in a library where we've done a community survey, we've had a really hard time getting responses specifically from teens. So 95% of them were either 15 or 16 years old. So, you know, this is like your core bread and butter teens. These are not the kids who are heading off to college tomorrow. It's not the kids who are 12. So it's your actual New Trier high school students. So they're most important things they wanted in a teen-only space was lounge seating, which was 88%, tables for group study, 87%, and tables for individual study. So they really want a space where they can hang out, where they can study with friends, where they can participate. Things that were less important, it dropped off really big after that. It was less important for them to have the books for the teens in that area. Only about 44% said that that was important, and only about 35% said that it was important to have activities, projects, or other things to do. So, I mean, it's not surprising to any of us who work in this community to see that what they want is just a place to study. But, you know, it's nice to see that borne out by the data. In terms of whether it's important for the teens in the community to have spaces that are just for teens, I think it varied a little bit based on which community they were in, but, you know, it was kind of evenly split. There were 29% were neutral on that. And then about 30% said, no, it's not important. And about 40% said, yes, it is important for the library to have a teen only space. So for them, I think, you know, for some, it's more important that it's exclusive to teens, and for some it's less important and they just want like certain types of furniture or different elements. Most of the respondents, obviously Wilmette is the biggest town, so it was 40% Wilmette respondents, about 25% Winnetka, and then smaller who regularly visit like Glencoe or Northfield. So let me see if there's anything else that is like specific. As far as what they would use the teen only space for, 85% said studying. So that was by far the largest. Hanging out with friends, under 50%. Fortunately, 63% said reading. So that was high. I was like, yay. But, you know, even things like playing video games, playing tabletop games, using library computers, those were all around 20-ish%. So, and then we had only 12% say they wouldn't use a teen only space. So that was nice to hear that most people would use it if it were offered. There were those individual comments as well. I won't go into those. If people would be interested, I'd be happy to share the summary of the report with, you know, with the township board. But again, I think it was mostly bearing out what we have seen and heard anecdotally from teens, but kind of nice to have it all stacked out in front of us like that.
I would love to see a copy. I think that'd be really helpful. So was this was one survey for all the libraries? Okay.
It was specifically developed. Amanda and I had developed it, but then we did loop in Wilmette. So sorry, Wilmette didn't get to input specific questions because neither Glencoe or Winnetka have a teen only space, unlike Wilmette that does have a teen only space. So since both of us are in different, both libraries are in different parts of our strategic planning process, we felt like it was best to be targeted to our two libraries that didn't have that space already.
And is the existence of the youth drop-in centers in the township being taken into consideration in determining whether the library should have a teen space?
And that's not anything that was specifically addressed in the survey. What I have found, I actually worked at the Winnetka Public Library for 5 years before I moved around and then went to Glencoe, is that we gather different people for different purposes. And although there is some overlap, that it's just like anything else. You know, you have the people, gosh, I'm going to date myself. You know, you have the people who went to Denny's and you have the people who went to IHOP. And, you know, it was just kind of where people went. So, you know, I think we definitely consider that. I mean, especially in relation to our programming at Glencoe, because we have such limited space. When I was at Winnetka, we tried to offer programs at the Yo because we didn't have that space available. But, you know, I think for us, like whether a library has a teen only space isn't determined by the other options that are in the community. I'll speak for myself and say that.
I just want to insert some information here. So I have a 15 and a 17-year-old at home. They never study at home. And I think that it didn't help that over COVID, teens were kind of doing their work in the bed. So sometimes my son will say, Mom, after school, I'm gonna stay. I think that they do their best work away from home, like being away from the home environment. Because my kids like to do homework in the bed. That always drives me crazy. I'm like, go to the table and do your homework. So I think that you're seeing such an influx because of them being home for so long. It's kind of, it's good news to hear that kids actually use the library.
Have there been significant spikes since before COVID, and then obviously a lot of places were closed during COVID, we're not really post-COVID, but we're getting there. Have you guys seen significant increases in you coming to all your agencies and programs?
Yes, yeah, I mean, we have for sure. I only worked at the Winnetka Library a little bit before I shut down for COVID. But the turnout of our numbers for programming and stuff, definitely like really looking for things.
Yeah, we have incredible attendance. It's probably, I think the last number was like 90% of pre-pandemic levels at this point. And youth is the biggest driver of that. We had a toddler T-Rex party. I forget if it was the beginning of October and end of September, but we had 193 people show for that program, and in a room that can hold 40.
Wow.
So these are good problems to have, but obviously, that's all hands on deck. We immediately ran out of snacks. People were showing up everywhere. Luckily, we had our end of the summer party the day before, and I brought all the leftover snacks. But yeah, particularly our youth services, and in the spring when teens had finals, we had teens going out of every corner of the library, and teens still now in a lot of cases will come in at 8:30 at night thinking that they're going to roost and get comfortable there to do homework, and it's like, oh, we're sorry, we're closing at 9, so yeah, we're definitely seeing teens there. You guys as well, I imagine.
Yeah, I think our drawer counts are near pre-pandemic levels, as well as our circulation. A lot of it driven, at least half of it driven by children's books. And programming for the most part is at pre-pandemic levels, especially early childhood programs. We're seeing a lot of new families coming in who moved to the Wilmette area from the city and from other parts of the country, visiting for the first time and bringing their new babies in for story time. So that's a big challenge for us. We're limited by space and by parking. We could easily do double, I think the triple of the story times that we're doing now, maybe not satisfy everybody. When we were doing outdoor story time, we would have up to 75 people come to story time on the lawn. So yeah, the demand is out there. I think the only thing that's been down, our summer reading club numbers are not what they used to be, but that's hearing that from a lot of area libraries, and I think the revenge travel phenomenon that was happening. But the influx of new families, the summer reading club is not an annual tradition for them yet. So we're working on building those numbers back up again.
For our youth centers, you stay open later than the library?
No.
So is 9 o'clock generally a close time for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, these centers are only open till 7 during the week, right?
Yeah, but we're open, and we're open earlier. It's interesting, I should touch base with Ann and see about whether there is a need for a late night hangout for the middle school students. I don't think we get so many we have high school students that serve as mentors currently, and we're trying to engage high school students through certain programming like Battle of the Bands that's working collaboratively with the other youth centers. But because of our location sometimes, it's not like they're just coming over from the high school and walking over because we're in Glencoe. So it would be nice for us to maybe brainstorm. I don't know if it would be useful, but I certainly would certainly be willing to consider staying open as study centers, at least during certain times of the year that you might find useful, or to run. We've already talked a little bit about running a teen center book club. So that's something that we're and they're visiting in January now. So those are some thoughts too, but I could see that there might be a need, it might fill a need for studying for at least the middle school kids.
Are
Yeah, the
the
center will get a little bit later.
youth centers experiencing a growth in numbers like the libraries are? Are you seeing increased number of youths attending or getting back to pre-COVID levels? What's your status on that?
I think with the combination of in-person and virtual stuff that we've been able to offer, I think that we're starting to get back towards the pre-pandemic levels. I think there's still like attendance issues. I think that all of us are facing. Well, we're not getting as many like as we would hope for, but I think that it's starting to trend more towards the pre-pandemic levels. With the combination of us being able to offer both virtual and in-person stuff.
Are you finding more people coming in generally or not? Or is it?
I've seen more people coming in, recently as opposed to like earlier in the year.
And I had a question for Nutris High School.
I'm sorry.
I would like an elaboration on your walk-in center.
Yes.
And who's using it, what your numbers are, what's being used for, et cetera.
Yeah, I can do the best, that I can. So last year was our very first year of using it, and being the second year of a COVID year, it was just slowly, rolled out, and so, we offered it out to any student in the building. It was not open every single period of the day. We found those periods that were higher traffic times for students. We also would switch to a block schedule, and so wanted to offer it during periods, lunchtime especially, advisory time, which is like that very first period of the day when students connect with their one teacher in the same cohort of students. And in content areas as well. So last year it was only open during content areas, and during lunch. And like I said, it was a slow rollout, meaning started off with a smaller cohort of students because we were not sure if we were going to get an influx of students in that space. And so technically that space can be best utilized if we have 5 students or less in that space. It's kind of a smaller classroom space. And we operate at both buildings at our Northfield campus, which is our freshman center, and then the Winnetka campus. And so some days there would be 1 student in per period or 2 students, some days, you know, or each period of the day, and then there's some periods where would be nobody in there. But at the same time, the person who is manning the center would be continually working on, you know, developing toolkits for the students. And the students, once they do go into that space, check them in and kind of assess what their need is for that time that they're in that space. So sometimes it's just, I need a chill time. I'm good on my own. I just need to kind of self-regulate. I just can't handle what I might be walking into in my next class. I need to just kind of decompress. I only need 15 minutes or so. Other times students will go in and they are they might have some internal conflict, whether it's within themselves or with a peer. And they can talk with the social worker and kind of identify what are some strategies to help them overcome that and work through. And sometimes it's just students can go in and just kind of do some coloring or some, you know, age appropriate types of coloring activities, or there's a ton of manipulatives and tactile, you know, various those things.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, for my girls. How many of them? So in terms of numbers, last year it kind of grew over the course of the year. I would say I was just looking at them now, actually, right before I came over here. As a pilot year, I would say maybe 150 students accessed the Winnetka location. I would say it was a total of 50, and again, this is just total, like have access to at least one time or so, 50 to 60 at our Northfield campus. This year, we were more intentional about how we advertised for the drop-in center or our student support center. Made sure that in our advisory classes that our advisors were very familiar and aware of that service for our students. And we also communicated in a way which we're focusing on a multi-tiered system of support for students in the school system. That's a framework that's often used where you're providing support for all students at a universal level. And then you can provide more targeted interventions if that's not working for a majority of your students and need more targeted support. So in the past, we've always been offering a lot of supports for tier 2 and tier 3 with social, emotional, and mental health supports, whether it's in small groups for students or individual basis, you know, counseling services. So that last year, like I said, was the first year offering that to all students. And then this year it's gaining more traction. We've communicated in different ways. We've reached out and had students now become more of a part of it. We have a student mental health advisory board that one meeting I attended this year so far, and just saw some real excitement and enjoyment that our students were going to partake in how they can go about advertising for this space and making it just a realistic option for students, because ultimately our goal is to try to help our students not be out of class, but rather be in class. So taking whatever strategies they can learn during this, and when they are in this space, if they do use it, so that they can ultimately build capacity within themselves and utilize them wherever they need. So
Do other agencies in the community, like some of the ones that are here today, obviously the biggest source of recruitment for participants comes from the high school. Do agencies today have opportunity to let the high school students know about their activities and programs?
you know, that's a great question that you're asking, because that's a question that I'm gonna go back and ask. So my key person that I keep in touch, specifically with the work that we do with student services, is the department chair for social work, and then also the assistant principal. So I obviously communicate with them regularly, but understanding how that two-way communication happens from all these agencies is the one main question that I have. So if anyone.
Somebody who's been here for 20+ years, I will tell you that one of the biggest complaints that we get from many of the agencies in the community is that they don't have the opportunity to let students that use career find out what's going on in the community, what opportunities are available to participate in youth centers or libraries or other kinds of programming that's available in the community, be it recreational, social, or, you know, more interventional.
Yeah, I'll say that from our experience with the Battle of the Bands, that was a lot of the feedback that we got from members of like our youth boards and other members of the center. They go to New Trier, they said that they weren't allowed to put up flyers or pass any information out because we're not a club at New Trier, which is why we were looking into that.
I've also run into that, trying to pass on program information through like team program information. Normally what I do is I identify which faculty sponsors, different after school clubs that are relating to programs or services that I'm trying to do, and I send that to them directly. And I say, hey, this program's coming up, here's the flyer, could you print it out, could you share it with the students if you have time? And sometimes I get a response, and sometimes I don't, but when it comes down to it, I don't really know how much that information is being communicated.
And I have the same experience.
I'm trying to go backly in by telling the middle school librarian what we're doing, and if she could pass that to her contact with the high school and tell them. It feels a little sneaky, but like at least she like knows. Yeah, she's in contact with the New Trier librarian, so sometimes she'll like, I'll send her an email out that's coming up and she can like word of mouth tell people.
Does New Trier not have like a community liaison? Like, I don't even know what the name would be.
Like,
Yeah.
We do. We have like a person who oversees any communication from the outside that it's Nikki Dazan, and she is our main person who will be most likely responding to you all. But I think there's also another way to go about this. And so, again, if we're talking about, you know, services within the community and they're nonprofit, and, you know, to me, that's the benefit of all of us sharing these resources. We want to access and we want to partner. So I would just suggest, I don't know how I can get my name out to the group. By all means, I'd be happy to be that main conduit as a start. I can share this, you know, what information comes to me. I have been sitting at the table oftentimes with a group and talking about what information, how can we be sharing this out? No, we can't do it because X, Y, and Z. So I don't want to misspeak on what our process is, but I'm happy to definitely take in information. This to me is valuable, valuable resources, information for our students and our families, and I don't see harm in it. So I do also want to make sure that I'm following protocol for however we advertise and stuff, because there are certain criteria and protocol that we do follow there, so.
I did think they're just seeing over the, I've been here for 25 years and, I've been running like a peer jury program for most of that, and we send a lot of kids out in the community, do community service, and I'm just flabbergasted at the high percentage of kids who have not heard of any of the teen centers. Okay, whereas they've all heard of Erica's Lighthouse, and they haven't been around as long. So something is not getting out there to kids about the availability of some of the services in the community. Granted, kids have a lot of competition for their attention. We sure have every club under the sun, every sport you can imagine,
Right.
but a lot of kids are not aware of youth centers.
I did think the health and wellness fair was a really good idea, but my feedback from that would be that a lot of the kids just didn't know that it was even happening. So I think that decreased like the amount of foot traffic that we could have gotten, because we were just there during the lunch period, and I know you were there, for 2 days, so I think that was the feedback that we were getting. We were just kind of thrown in like the middle of the lunch.
So you were there, what you're saying. is you
Yeah,
were
they were
there.
letting school 2 times a year for in spring and the fall, so it's a wellness fair that they have, but then other than that. It's hard to hear, yeah.
Right.
I mean, as an organization, we've talked about, we've spoken to Todd at Croya, and they have a retreat, which I think sounds amazing that they've built up through the years. So that's something that's open. I think the run one for like freshmen in the fall, and then for upperclassmen in the spring. And it's also sort of run with high school mentors sort of overseeing it. And we've talked about that being one of our visions as well, as a way for running it possibly for 8th graders going into freshman year, and then freshmen who are going to be sophomores and switching campuses. And I mean, that's sort of our vision of a way of sort of getting kids to know each other that are coming from throughout the community, like in reports, they have like blockers of a lot of kids coming together at once. And so I think there's a lot of value in that. And it would be great to work with the high school on that, or find a way to promote that in the high school, or to see what their needs might be, but to do that, like sitting at the table, so.
So, sticking with New Trier High School and the clubs concept, how does New Trier fund its clubs? And does New Trier currently fund, it has an Erica's Lighthouse Club, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, there's a teen empowerment club at New Trier, but our clubs all of our programs are free for schools. They're all donor funded. So our teen empowerment club, actually, we give them a grant of $250 so that they can do activities that impact the entire school community.
I have one follow-up question on New Trier. Do you have anything after school as far as the drop-in center?
We don't, we do not have anything after school in terms of the drop-in center, just our clubs and activities.
Thank you.
Yes.
so, for other clubs, do you provide, is there some sort of funding? So if I were a student and I started a club, how does
You
that?
know, I don't have the answers to that. I do just know that we offer through our student activities, we offer clubs and the extracurricular activities. We have over 100 that we offer for students throughout the year. There's a whole gamut of them. It's amazing. And I know most of our staff are those who are the sponsors of them. Other than that, and there's, stipends associated with it.
I guess we could ask to wrap up here, what would the group like to be able to get out of this session today?
We share contact information with you.
Yes, and we can send that.
Everyone's email.
We can send everybody an email. So I wish I had more park districts here, but because Winnetka is here, I'll pick on you. I appreciate it. So what is your current? Would Winnetka Park District take on some sort of a recreational drop-in center for you?
I think we would absolutely have willingness to do it. Our limiting factor is space. And it's not that we have space that's being otherwise utilized. We physically don't have buildings. All of our indoor programming bar, a couple small cases is done in District 36 building. We have no gymnasium space, we have no multi-purpose program space outside of our community room. That is essentially the size of this room, and we traditionally hold our board meetings in it. As an example, when I started a little over a year ago, I had the idea of going down the path, creating opportunities for esports. Creating an esports room that could be brought into community room, taken out, and it's feasible, but it's a large investment for something that can't be protected, can't be used with a large regular basis. Not having a building that could be used as a drop-in, used as even able to be transitioned from one use to another limits what we're able to do in that.
And do you work with nonprofits currently providing services?
We do, we facilitate a lot of programs or events in our various parks throughout through the village. We worked with the library for their summer event in August. We worked with the library for their book clubs, meeting at different beach areas. I think that's where we were particularly interested in how can we take what is traditionally recreational space and pivot to new uses to adapt to the growing needs of the community. We've definitely seen an enormous influx of young families. That is going to translate into a larger need for young adult programming when they come of age. So it's just around the corner. If you look at any of our large scale events that are geared towards younger families, we're packed to the gills. And so this is well-timed conversation.
So for instance, I'm in Wilmette, so I know that they use a lot of for-profit companies to provide, girls' sports session or dance class. Do you do that as well?
We do. We work closely with a company called Hot Shot Sports that does a lot of our third-party
We have
programming.
many a shirt, yeah.
Sports, Trevian football, Team One lacrosse, AYSO soccer. They allow us to strengthen the quality of our programming in a community where we don't necessarily have access to a large volume of volunteer coaches.
Got it.
With that, we're also looking at opportunities that many of our programs are fee-based. And so we're trying to understand how can we create drop-in, very low structured activities, such as, doing a remote time or a distinct time where maybe the hour on the turf is open and here's some, pieces of sporting equipment and make your own fun. We'll actually be offering one night a week for an open gym basketball shoot around. Just to have a place, we've had some interest from community members, not having that indoor basketball within the park district ground. So we're trying to identify, we've done real phenomenal job during the part of the pandemic to now where we are providing programming. I think now we're trying to look through the lens of how can we better meet the needs of a larger community beyond just those that can afford or desire to pay for what we're offering.
And have you ever worked with the Alliance on early childhood programs?
Yes.
Yeah,
Great.
I was so nice to meet you. We had a great first event that actually we had so many young families, to your point, Kyle.
Yeah, the fort building event
Yeah,
started off as a partnership, and the Alliance has done such a phenomenal job that we've given them full support of space and facilitation for marketing, and it's a home run event.
The pictures look fabulous.
okay.
Yeah. You were there. I was sad I wasn't. Are there questions that you want to ask each other? And we will provide your contact information so these conversations can continue. My board as well. Any questions that you have? Individual? Paul?
No. It's been interesting to listen.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you all coming. Like I said, these are continuing conversations that we'll all have. The funding decisions happen, will be presented the decisions by the committees. In December, we ultimately make the final decisions. This is early next year. It gets into our next budget. But yeah, these are just conversations we've been wanting and needing to have for a long time. So I really appreciate your time. So there's now in line for public comment, which I have to put in there every time. So any public comment? Seeing none. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you for
So,
coming.